Exclusive interviews with Alex Lifeson and also Geddy Lee, plus all kinds of great concert footage and just everything you wanted to know about Rush, all in one neat package. We're going to give away an entire Rush catalog. I'm going to hurt myself. Okay. Entire Rush catalog. Autograph too. Okay? That, and there's some secondary prizes too of the latest Rush album. You have to watch it though. Sometime near the end. Miss Erica M. making her return edition after her road tour to MuchMusic is going to ask you a question about the Rush special.
Since the band formed in the early 1970s, Rush has gone from playing church basements in Willowdale to become the most consistently successful group in the history of Canadian music. Through the 70s, they won Most Promising and Best Group honors at the Juno Awards and were named Best Band in the World in the Sounds Rock Poll in 1977. In 1979 in Chicago, the Canadian Consul presented Rush with a proclamation recognizing the group as Canadian ambassadors of rock and roll. The success of the album Permanent Waves opened all the doors for Rush. It went top 3 and gold in the United States and platinum in Canada, and they became the first group to sell out the amphitheater in Chicago 4 nights in a row. They repeated that success for the next 5 months on tour. Moving Pictures was another milestone, and in 1981, this album, plus 2112 and All the World's a Stage, went platinum in America. By the end of the year, Rush had played live to more than 1 million fans. A Grammy nomination for Best Instrumental and a platinum live album for Exit Stage Left led to the LP's Signals, a Laserium show featuring their music, and 4 sold-out nights at Wembley Stadium in England. In September of '83, Rush became the first rock band to play 5 sold-out nights at Radio City Music Hall. In April of '84, Grace Under Pressure was released, along with 4 new videos, and was followed by a tour of the Orient. In September of 1987, Rush released their 14th album, Hold Your Fire. Before the band began their North American tour, we spoke with Geddy Lee. How do you keep the Rush formula fresh?
I don't know. I think it's a lack of formula, if anything, that keeps it whatever it is. I think in the last couple of years we've been taking more time off after segments of our working life. Like after touring, we'll take a few months off and just, we don't see each other. We all go to our respective homes and involve ourselves in activities aside from Rush. And we've got this desire to make Rush part of, our whole life experience, as opposed to having, our life as in Rush and then our lives separately. And taking the time off and trying to integrate those two things has given us a much more balanced outlook on the whole thing. So when it comes time to do a record, we're more excited because we know we're not going to be, pulled out of our other lives and put into this vacuum for 6 months to make the record and then come back and see what kind of shape our lives were in when we last left them, so to speak. So I think that combination, the consideration that we've given to both those parts of our life has made us feel more confident and more relaxed about working. And I think it shows on the record. I think maybe that's one of the positive things about this album.
Does traveling all over the world help that process?
Oh yeah, of course. And when we did Grace Under Pressure a few albums ago, we stayed in the studio. It's a great studio, but we were there for like 4.5 months in the dead of winter. It was very cold, and we had cabin fever by the end. It was like climbing the walls. And you get to a dangerous state with the record where you want to finish the record because you want to get out of there, and sometimes that pressure to get out of there is the wrong kind of pressure you should be feeling when you're finishing off a work that you've spent 5 months working on. You want to make it great and not in a hurry. So going to a different place every 3 weeks enables us to be in a new environment, and we've been fortunate enough to be able to afford to pick exotic and interesting environments. So that keeps you fresh. You're up when you get to the studio. And you know, in 3 weeks you're going to go home and spend 7 to 10 days at home with your family, so you're not, you know, you're in touch with everything. So it's a really nice way to work.
Three come back together after a time apart and leading your various separate lives. Do you bring a whole new batch of influences in, films you've seen, records you've listened to, and do you get all excited about playing these for the other guys?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, what we noticed actually during the making of this record, that actually Neil surprisingly commented on in his bio that he does before every album, but we would continue this kind of dialogue throughout the making of the record. Like, we would go out or spend a day off somewhere, and, you know, if we'd be in London or Paris, or spend a day looking at, you know, art galleries or whatever, and we would talk all day long without ever mentioning the work in hand, without ever talking about the album that we were making. And that's a really nice state to get to as a band and as friends, where you have so many interests and so many other things you can talk about that you're not stale. And you know, like you said, when you get back together after not seeing each other for a few months, it's like a flurry of words. Everybody's talking about what they were doing and what they've seen and what they've experienced, and you talk about how really in little ways that you've changed as people, and that usually spurs writing, and bang, you're off again.
How do you, after all this time, ward off creative atrophy, or is it just always a well of inspiration?
With us, we take time off, and I think it's really good. We pursue other interests that everybody has. We all have families, so there's a whole domestic scene that you have to deal with. But we find that having a little bit of time off really clears your head, and you're all fired up to get right back into it when it's time. I like to paint still life primarily. I'm really learning how to paint and learning a bit of technique, but I've done a couple of abstract things for a couple of guys on the crew. They sort of turned it around a few times and trying to figure it out.
And they go, yeah, it looks like a great dog, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
So you one of these guys we're going to find with a big beret and a cape out in Cape Spears with the wind
That's
lashing.
Right.
Oh dear, and you invent, I heard.
No? Yeah. Yeah, a little bit.
Like what?
Oh, all kinds of stuff. We had a problem. Earlier on, I was using acoustic guitars during the set, and part of the problem was playing the acoustic and then being able to switch to the electric immediately. So I designed a stand, and we had them built. And Geddy had this problem with where he puts his lyrics when he's in the studio. You know, you can put it on a music stand, and then you have to turn all the lights up, and you ruin the atmosphere. So I thought it would be nice to build him a nice stand that's lit from behind, and you can just put the lyrics up there and turn all the lights down and see the lyrics clearly. And I'm developing another thing.
Yeah?
That's it has to do with short-term wine storage. I like wines. I'm into wines, and it's just something that I'm working on now.
Short term, so like in big
Yes,
kegs or
you know, you can open a bottle of wine and keep it for a couple of weeks without it spoiling or going off. But it's top secret.
Oh, so, okay, right.
That's not too much. Take that off. Wait a second.
Have you heard some records lately, things that have really excited you?
I got into some different styles of music. I've been listening to more classical music lately, and I've been on my own studying the piano. I'm a beginner when it comes to the piano, but it's important to me to do that. And, you know, we've all been traveling on our own individually. You know, myself, I've been traveling a little bit after we finished the record in France and so on, and Neil's been in Africa, you know, so those are the kind of things that we get involved in. We're all very health conscious, too, at this stage in our lives, and we're all sort of pretty active in different sports, you know. I know it sounds funny, you know, musicians talking about sports, but I think that keeps you in shape. It keeps your body healthy, and it gives you, you know, better attitude about your work, and you don't get burnt out, and you can work a lot harder, you know, as a musician. So, you know, Neil's heavily into biking and swimming and mountain climbing and everything else that is impossible for most of us normal people to do. Myself, I play tennis, and you know, I like baseball, as you know, and Alex is a tennis freak as well. So, all those extra activities aside from that, I think help make the creative moment when it is time for that creative moment. Everybody's ready for it and fired up.
I know Neil is the designated lyricist in the band, but that you two confer on themes and things before he starts the album. What sort of things did you talk about before making this record?
Well, you know, I think Neil has something in mind when he starts writing lyrics, you know, some sort of concept that he needs as a MacGuffin, if you will, for the songs to sort of hang on to. But as the conversations roll around, you start talking about different things. We started talking about, I don't know, we started talking about aspirations and how it felt at some point, you know, early in our lives, how, well, one conversation, you know, we talked about how we always knew what we wanted to do, you know, how at a very young age, you know, we decided we want to be musicians. And from that point on, we never had to wonder, you know. You never knew whether you're going to be successful or whether you'd fail, but you knew you were going to be a musician, so you knew that's what you had to do. And we were comparing it to friends of ours that never really had that one obsession, you know, that sort of magnificent obsession. And, you know, they go through a lot of their lives trying this or trying that, or, you know, they're very intelligent and very creative people, but never being focused in a particular direction. So we talked about how lucky we really are that that happened to us. And, of course, the song Mission on the new record sprung directly out of that conversation for that. So, you know, you get into conversations about human nature and the kind of things that you're going through and the kind of things that you look back on in your life, and those spring into ideas for songs, and that's a nice natural way of writing. And in the past, I don't think we relied on those kind of inner feelings so much, and maybe that's why this record has a more personal feel to it.
In the past, the lyrics for Rush songs have been very philosophical. Did you sometimes find it hard to become impassioned while singing those lyrics?
Sometimes it's difficult because, you know, you can have a tendency in the past, we've had a tendency to get a little bordering on didactic and sounding really like, you know, sort of a study of a certain subject. And sometimes that's difficult to sing because there's a lot of words and I don't know, the structure is formal, and I think speaking in the first person, which we are in this record, helps a lot, and, you know, speaking more directly and connecting it more with feelings, as I said, helps that a lot too. But there has been a formality to some of our lyrics in the past that have made it difficult to do anything more than try to fit the lyrics into a melodic context that suits the song, and bang, it's gone.
It seems to me that in the last 3 albums, or the last 3 years even, the scope of the lyric content has changed a lot, that it's gone from really broad global concerns into some very personal ones. Is that representative of the direction?
It is, and I think that comes out of the growing experience of the age that we are, you know, and having said all those things, and you get more reflective at different points in your life too. And I think having more time for personal experiences helps you turn those feelings into words, and you know, it's a more reflective age that we're at, I think, you know. I mean, who knows if it's going to last? Who knows what the next album, if we, you know, won't be out there again, you know, barking at the moon about something or other. But
in the meantime,
in the meantime,
demand tough songs.
Yeah, yeah.
I noticed before we came over here, I looked at Billboard, and it seems that not only the public is embracing the new Rush album, but also radio. Are you surprised by that?
I don't like being embraced by the public. I don't know. That's a really weird thing to put in perspective. You know, you work so hard on a project for so long, and we've got so many records out, and before every record, somebody comes up to you and says, wow, I think there's 3 hits on this record. It's going to be a smash. And you go, oh, okay. So you think about that, and then it turns out not to be true, so you go, okay, well, they didn't know what they're talking about. So never mind. So after a while, you have this built-in sort of deniability. You know, you sort of ignore whatever hit potential or whatever popularity potential the record might have. You know, once it leaves your hands, you know, you promote it, you do what you can, but you don't worry about it because there's nothing you can do anyway. You've made your thing, you've expressed yourself, you've made your statement, and then it's in somebody else's hands, really. So, you know, now the record is doing well, and that's great because we want to do well. You know, it's a natural instinct to want to succeed at what you do. But I don't really try to spend too much time thinking about it because I think it can warp your perspective.
You know, when we went to Montreal with a couple of winners to take them to your show, these were two young guys in college who played in a band that did Rush covers and who won a car that they wanted to sell to buy gear that would be exactly like yours. Are you amazed by this kind of dedication?
Constantly amazed. But again, it's one of those things that you can't think about too much. You have to go on with your life and your everyday world and think about things that are important at the moment. Those are the kind of periphery things I think you don't have any control over, and to think about them too long, I think, warps your perspective again. So every once in a while you ponder and you go, why are these people so fanatical about what I do? But, you know, it definitely reaffirms that you're doing something good. I feel that way, especially in face of all adversity. And sometimes, you know, you're looking for those extra reasons to why you should do this one more time. And when something like that happens, it definitely inspires you.
We want to be included on the rock and roll map of Canada. We would not only like to address the rockers all across Canada, we would also like to address Alex and Neil and Getty. When we heard that you had left Atlantic Canada out of the Power Windows tour, our first reaction was disappointment. Our second was anger. But now we're saying to the three of you, we were there supporting you when you were just starting out.
We had no reason to think that anybody out there really even wanted us out there because we hadn't played there in so long. And I can't remember. I think the last times we were out there were like 8-9 years ago, and I don't think the shows did that well. So when your memory of a concert is that, you figure, well, there's obviously not much interest. So when we're getting these petitions and these phone calls and all this stuff that's going down, it's really eye-opening. And it was unfortunate we couldn't schedule it in on our last tour, but that's why we were determined this time to start the tour there and figure that would be a good way of getting to know that part of the country again.
Are we looking forward to seeing Rush tonight?
Of course. Oh, guaranteed, yeah.
Okay, what's so good about him?
Neil Peart.
Yeah. That's it? You don't care about the other guys?
Who?
What do you think? What do you like about Rush?
Oh, Alex Lifeson all the way, man.
Mm-hmm. So
he's cool.
Getty and Neil don't mean anything to you?
Oh, they got to be there to make Alex look good, right? That's all it is, man.
You look like a Rush fan?
Oh, yeah.
What do you like about him?
Drums. Neil Peart. Sexy.
Greatest drummer in rock, man. Definitely. He's the greatest drummer in rock music.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Rush, you know, they're pretty good.
How good?
Very good.
What do you like specifically? Is it music or lyrics or?
Stage performance, what I heard about, right?
Okay. Have you ever seen Rush before?
No. I've waited 13 long years and this is it.
I was just admiring your shirt.
Sarah, what do you think? Best con. How you doing?
How do you like Rush?
Lovely. About time someone good came down here anyways.
Is Rush one of your favorite bands?
No.
No? Who's your favorite band?
AC/DC.
AC/DC is your favorite band, but you're willing to listen to Rush?
Oh, gee, why not? It's free tickets.
Oh, you got free tickets?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we don't want to talk to him then. Turn him off.
Tom Sawyer. It's probably my best song I like off of all.
Why? Why do you like those songs? Is it something about the music or something maybe about the lyrics?
It's about the lyrics, what they say to you.
No, not the lyrics, man.
What do you mean not the lyrics?
The music.
The music?
Yeah.
No, the lyrics.
No, the lyrics. The lyrics is what the band got to say.
The lyric person, the guy who writes lyrics, is the drummer, right, Neil? The guy got a brain on his shoulders, man. He knows what he's talking about. If he was the president of the States, it'd be great.
What about if he was the Prime Minister of Canada?
Well, Canada's not as powerful, right? So he probably did a good job, too. I don't know.
Rush are known for their high standards in the studio, on stage, and I presume that the same thing applies with videos. Who in the band gets most involved?
Well, videos are a very, very difficult subject for us because of, obviously, it's not really a pleasurable experience for us to do videos. But surprisingly, we've kept an open mind. In the past, we've worked with a lot of different directors, and almost every time we want to work with a new director because we keep hoping for that masterpiece that's going to come out. But in those areas, usually I'm more of a liaison between the director and his ideas and the band and our ideas, and it's more a matter of practicality. Of the three of us, I'm probably the most interested in what's going down, and you know, that in itself is enough to say, okay, you do it. So I usually have the most contact, you know, from in between the band and the director. The making of the video for Time Stands Still, for example, was such a long, involved process, but we knew it was going to be beforehand, you know. When we talked to Zbigniew on the phone, you know, he said, well, it's going to be 3 days, and we figured, okay, 3 days means maybe 4 days. So everybody came down to the shoot with things to do. You know, Neil brought his Macintosh computer down, and he had all this writing to do, and you know, brought books, and you know, I brought my baseball gloves down. You know, anytime there's a break, you can go in a parking lot and play catch. And it turned out it took 4 days of shooting in 3 days. So it was very difficult. And those kind of things are hard to justify to yourself, you know, when you're looking at it from a musician's point of view. Like Neil especially, you know, he just wants to play. He doesn't want to be an actor, he doesn't want to be a model, you know. He just wants to play, and he wants the guy to film us playing, which is where I think most performing musicians feel most comfortable. And that's a severe limitation to put on a video director. If they're going, well, I have all these ideas for you guys to be running here and doing this. In the end, it's always a little bit of push and shove, but with Zbigniew, he understood that, and the method that he uses, even though it was difficult to film, I think was sort of true to our spirit as performers.
I want to talk about some of the older Rush videos, just see how you feel about them. I'm thinking of Body Electric. How do you feel about that one?
I like the people a lot that we used. Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel did that one, and they're really very bright people. Very nice people, too. And I like the caliber, the standard of effects that they used. That's what I was most impressed at, because in videos before, we'd always been used to, you know, well, it costs so much money to do that effect, so we'll only do this effect, but it'll sort of be like that effect. Where they just sort of went for it and got what I consider to be really first-grade effects in that. And it was really a little mini movie. Probably the first one that we did. Maybe the only one that we've really done. Capture my thoughts, carry them away. Mystic Rhythms is quite to me, is quite a different feeling. And my memory of shooting that video, again, was very tough. But another interesting person to work with, Jerry Caselli from Devo. And what was impressive about that video was everything he said that video was going to be, it ended up being, which very rarely happens, as you well know. When you're making a video, they tell you that it's going to be this, this, this. And all these shots he would describe, and I think he must have a you know, complete photographic memory. He would describe these shots that he wanted to use and these camera moves, and this is what it's going to look like. And when it came back, that's exactly what it looked like. Plus more, because he'd found, you know, some weird toys in this shop in London, a sort of museum for weird toys. I don't know if you recall the video. At the end of it, there's all these weird little, this skeleton with all these moving people living within the skeleton. We found this place that has all these bizarre toys that he threw in on top of it. So I thought he did a great job on it.
Distant Early Warning had a really unique feeling to it. How do you look back on it?
That was one of the ones that the band probably had the most input into. You know, myself and Neil and the whole band, and Hugh Syme had some input in that. And we did that with David Mallet. That was very much a collaboration. So we would come up with some of the visual icons to use there, and Hugh would put them in some sort of semblance, and David shot the thing and made it look believable, and we saw it as being this big production, and we were very concerned on the quality of cinematography, and he would say to us, look guys, this is video, leave it to me. It may not be realistic, but I can promise you at least it'll be surrealistic. And he was absolutely right, and that's the way to make it work, because in that, it's not like you're filming Superman where you can spend 2 months reshooting. You can't do that. It's all very instant. And he did a great job on it, I think. And I think in terms of impact, that was probably our most successful video.
How are the preparations for the new tour going?
Oh, they're coming slowly but surely. I don't think we realized when we were making the record how difficult it would be to play live. Especially my role is really, I'm more of a choreographer this time out than a musician in a lot of ways. So it's going to be tough to pull off, but we will.
Will you put a lot of keyboard parts on tape to deal with that problem?
No, but I'll have a lot of electronic help. I'll have sequencers and sampling machines and a very intricate array of foot pedals that will trigger a whole bunch of different things. And I'm actually going to give Alex a keyboard this time for his side of the stage, because there's a few moments that he's not playing guitar where he can handle the keyboards and I can, play bass and sing. So we're going to sort of share the duties around the stage.
I know you brought in a keyboard player for the last couple of albums, and I'm wondering, has the discussion ever come up about putting a fourth person on stage?
Yeah, it comes up all the time, but I think we're really afraid to in a lot of ways, There's something about the chemistry and the challenge of doing it that's exciting. At the same time, it's like letting someone else into the club, We're a tight-knit group, the three of us. We have a certain balance. We have a certain relationship. And I think we're afraid to interfere with that too much.
We haven't been on the road for a year and a half, and it's kind of exciting to get back into the swing of it. We were talking last night was the first show, and I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but still, you get on for the first couple songs, and you're like, you're just waiting to hear the wrong note and something go, I'm going to trip, But after about the third song, it's like you've never been off the road. It's, it's right back where you left off.
We use 5 48-foot semis on the road, 3 buses. It's really a minimal amount of equipment for this type of touring act, but yet again it is the less is more theory that does fall into play here.
Rush are great guys, number one. It's like really easy to get along with. They're down to earth, and they're professionals.
We've always had a real family feel to the whole organization, and ever since we started going out on the road, we've been good friends with the people we work with. Liam has been with us for 80 years, I think, now, and a couple of other guys almost that long, and I think it's mostly because we're friends and we treat each other like friends.
It's the kind of thing, it does get in your blood. It's hard to walk away from. I have had thoughts of leaving the road, but every time you come out on tour, the adrenaline starts pumping again. You feel quite at home.
I always felt that there was a magic there with the band. The three of them seemed to just, you know, meld into a closeness that you don't see in rock and roll or in most music. To me, there's not a whole lot of groups that do that. There's not a whole lot of groups that are around as long as this band. Progressing with each other, you know, reflecting and developing ideas and developing their own sound.
Rush was first starting out, you had 2 or 3 albums to really to put yourself in the ballpark, and I wonder if a Rush could develop now when everyone's expected to have hits on the very first record.
It's not the same anymore like it was when we started back in the 20s. Things are very, very different. You're right, it's bands get signed and they have a couple of songs or EPs or whatever out, and then you never hear from them again. And that's the way I think a lot of record companies look at signing new talent. And they don't give any consideration to developing a band, whereas we were afforded that. We were given the chance to develop over a series of records and over years and over tours, and that just doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. It's a different world than it was 10 years ago. And it's too bad. I think maybe there's a shortage of really high caliber musicians that just, you know, can't get found.
If a young band came to you and they had sort of Rush-like aspirations, they wanted to deal with significant themes and challenge themselves musically, as I think that you three do, would you give them any advice or warnings about what it's going to be like out there?
I'd say, I don't know. I'd say just hang in, because that's a really difficult thing to do. I'd say take up a good sport, you know, get other interests, have a nice career to fall back on. I don't know. That's a really hard thing for me to give advice, because in so many cases our band's been the exception to the rule. And it happens a lot. I have a lot of friends that are struggling musicians, you know, and I'm always very hesitant to give advice, because, you know, at the same time I just say, like, be yourself and do what you think is right. But if I get too specific about what I think they should do, I might be ruining their careers, you know, because there's so many rules that we have broken without knowing that we were breaking them. And in the end, I guess that's part of the reason we've become successful in a sort of backhanded way. But, so I am very delicate when I'm giving advice to people. So for young bands out there, I would advise them to hang tough, and that's about all I could say.
Musically, we've done exactly what we've wanted to do. We haven't had any outside pressures to make a particular type of record or to record a particular type of song. So we've done it our way, and it's a great feeling. It's very satisfying to know that everything that you've done on record has been the way you wanted to do it. You look back and perhaps you made some mistakes, or you would do things differently, and that's a good thing. But at least, you know, you did it the way you wanted to do it, and you didn't have to compromise or give in to anybody. We never had to write hit singles, so we've never had one.
This is the nation's music station. All music, all the time. Much music. Well, you are back with the nation's music station. Welcome. Erica M with you. Hope you enjoyed that Rush Hour show. I have a lot of stuff to tell you guys, but let's stick with the Rush contest first of all, and then we'll get into the friendship business. Okay, as far as this Rush show is concerned, first of all, I'm sure if you're a Rush fan, you are in seventh heavens right now. Morgan Fleury, good job. She was the producer of the show, and she did a really nice job putting it all together. Don't you think, you guys? Yeah. Good job, Morgan. Yeah. And now it's your chance to get gifts and prizes and giveaways and that sort of thing. Hopefully you were watching that show from beginning to end, especially the end, because at the end of the Rush Hour special there was a brand new video from Rush. Now, if you can tell me the name of that new video, then you have a chance to win. There's actually one grand prize, which includes every single one of Rush's albums and a signed autographed poster of the band. We also have 4 copies of their brand new album to give away, as well as secondary prizes. So, if you know the answer to the question, which again is, what is the last video we played from Rush, which is their brand new video, if you know the name, write it on down to us and send it down to Rush Hour, care of MuchMusic, 299 Queen Street West, Toronto, Ontario, M5V2Z5. And don't forget to include your return address so we can mail it to you if you're one of our winners. Of course, we'll be doing a draw in a couple of weeks, and if you win, it'll all come to your front door. Maybe Santa Claus will even be carrying it for you.